The other. Today's panel includes the Californian Denise Gitsham, who joins us. Good to see you, Denise, Republican who ran for Congress out in the state, now a NewsNation contributor. And also today we're joined by the SiriusXM host, political commentator Risa Colbert. Good to have you back as well. Risa, what do you want to say, Denise? So we start with you in your home state of California. The Republicans here, this is going to be tough to fight back, just like the Democrats. It's tough to fight back in Texas. What's next?
Well, I mean, I just think, first of all, it's really important that we just point out that Democrats love to play with matches, but they never think they're going to get burned. It was Democrats that started this whole partisan redistricting, gerrymandering effort in 2018, when 6 months before Election Day, they tried to throw out the map that they had and replace it with a partisan one. And this has been done in 7 blue states, including my home state of California. We call it independent, but we know there's been a lot of Democratic influence over the process. So to say that Texas is starting this and they're going to respond in kind is it's just falsehood. And everyone who lives in a blue state knows it. So we'll see. But I also think it's interesting that in a nearly 2-to-1 margin, Californians prefer leaving congressional redistricting to an independent commission and leaving it out of the hands of partisans. So for Democrats who claim to be the bastion, of the supporters of democracy and the will of the people, I say they should go with the will of the people and stay out of it.
Yeah, we were talking about that poll with Amy Parnes in our last hour, the one that you're just referencing. Newsom would argue the difference, or one of them, between California and Texas is that the people are deciding, and there's going to be this vote. And here's what he said about that at his appearance last hour.
It's a tall task. We're asking them for 2/3 of a legislative consent, but this is the difference. This is the difference between what's happening in Texas and what's happening here in California. They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides, because they know what Donald Trump knows. He's going to lose the midterms.
All right. Risa, what would you say about this?
Well, first of all, the Texas Republicans did start this when Donald Trump told them, like he did in Georgia, to find the votes to find him some congressional seats. This is a mid-decade redistricting, which is something that is not standard whatsoever. And so I applaud Governor Gavin Newsom for saying that, listen, we're going to get off our high horses as Democrats for once, and we're going to roll around on the pigs in the mud with pigs. And the reality is this is going to be the will of the people. Right now, it is just an idea. It is going to the ballot. Polls are not voters cast. And if the votes get cast, unlike Donald Trump, I'm sure that Gavin Newsom will respect the will of the voters if they don't go his way.
Yeah, can I follow up with you, Risa, on that part of it?
Yeah.
Denise brought that up. I do think that's interesting. Whatever party you're in, people don't love this whole idea. Like, it's always how you ask the question, but if you ask people about gerrymandering, and they don't love it. And I think that poll that Denise brought up did show that, whatever party you're in.
Well, I mean, to be fair, listen, I would love for us to have independent commissioning, but I don't love having independent commissions when only Democratic states are having it. If Republicans are going to go balls to the walls and get as many Republican districts as they can, then Democrats have to respond in kind. And so I'm glad that they're being proactive about this, and we'll see what the voters decide. If the voters decide that they're okay with their votes being diluted because Republicans are gerrymandering every other state to the max, then okay, I guess we'll have to deal with that. But I suspect that once Democrats get out there and they tell California voters what's at stake, like what Governor Gavin Newsom is doing right now, then the winds will change. Just the same way that nobody cared about migrant caravans or CRT or DEI before Republicans drug that home every time. I think Democrats can win on this issue.
What's going to be like to be a Republican? You already know, Denise, what it's been like in the state of California after this. They had the news conference, I'm told. We dipped into for a few minutes, and like Congresswoman Cindy Kamalanger-Dove has been on this show a number of times, taking shots at the Congressman Kevin Kiley, one of the Republicans who might lose out in all of this. Kiley was on recently with Blake Berman on the Hill, and here's part of what he said.
I'm particularly concerned about what's going on in my own state, and this attempt to really threaten our democracy by undoing the will of voters and reintroducing a partisan redistricting process. Now, I don't love what's going on in Texas either, and that's why I've introduced legislation that will stop Governor Newsom's scheme in California, but will also put a stop to this brewing redistricting war by saying that states should do redistricting after the census.
Yeah, because California, and you know it better than me, Denise, is, I know everybody says, oh, it's a blue state, and it is, but it's a big state, and there's, been a long tradition of Republicans. We know some presidents, for example, that come out of the state of California. Is that just going away, do you fear, with all this? What do you think?
Yeah, in the district that I ran in 2016, it was I love to call it the congressional district, formerly known as the 52nd, and an ode to Prince. But it was I think it was about a third was the breakdown. A third Republican, Independent, or no party preference, and Democrat. When I ran in 2016, it was redistricted in 2020 at now it's a I believe, plus 18 Democratic seat, and it was at the time that I ran one of the 10 most competitive districts in the nation. So there's a lot of again, I think I agree with Kevin Kiley on this. Nobody, and I think any American who really cares, anyone who's involved in policy who really cares about our nation says this tit for tat ain't going to end up well for anybody. And a lot of it's just ridiculous politicking. But to not acknowledge where it actually started from, to say that getting in the mud with the pigs, which I don't think is ever a very good analogy for the other party, but to say that we're doing that and to not acknowledge that you were the pigs that actually started it is really dishonest to the American.
I don't want to spend 10 minutes
happened,
arguing who's in the mud, or who's a pig.
Right. I mean, it's just not language that I would generally use. But if you're going to acknowledge it that way, you should at least acknowledge that your party started it.
Okay, Risa, you can respond to that. But I actually want to pick up on another thing that he said, which is what I think is maybe the biggest takeaway from all of this, the reason people don't like it, even if they don't say this is the reason they don't like it. At the end of the day, it's going to be harder and harder to just get qualified, smart, interesting people to run. It already is. And the level of person who's in the House of Representatives, for example, will get even lower. And by the way, it's not that high right now, I would argue. So, I mean, it's just going to get worse. I mean, I think that's the real effect of this. And you're just going to get a lot of hacks in there, a lot more of them. Risa, what would you say?
Well, yeah, I think that's the point of what the Texas Republicans are trying to do. I think that's the point of what Donald Trump has directed Republicans across the country to do. They know that that big, beautiful bill is a loser. Once the millions of people start losing their Medicaid, once SNAP benefits are cut and people are going hungry, once people are going homeless, once these tariffs fully kick in.
I'm talking about Democrats too, Democratic districts where you have really far left, that's all you're going to have. It's going to be...
I think that there's a lot of narrative about Democrats being super far left, but at the end of the day, Democrats are competing for their votes, and Republicans are saying that we don't want to compete. We can pass trillions of dollars of tax cuts for billionaires, and our solution to going back to the voters is saying change our voters. Right. And so that's all that I'm saying is that this is due to Republicans knowing that their policies are very unpopular and detrimental to this country.
Final point on this, Denise, because again, I think you get far left, and then you get far right also, by the way.
You're so right. Only 40% of all congressional districts in America are even competitive anymore. What kind of a democracy does that make for us as a nation? I mean, I don't think anyone on any side of the aisle loves to see this extreme, constant moving to the right and left of our politics.
Right. Well, it just leaves you with clownish type candidates, and you're not going to get not as many serious candidates.
So let's deal with the facts as they are, which is that both sides are guilty, and neither side should continue to perpetuate it. But again, if you're going to talk about who started it, let's just be honest about that. The facts are the facts.
Going back to the pigs, and I get it. All right, Denise, thank you, and Risa as well. Thank you both on the discussion. But this is for a transition to candidates. But